Welcome back to Reddit Echoes. Tonight's stories aren't about drama, cheating, or petty revenge. They're about moments where everything changes in seconds. These are real people sharing what happened when they were forced to defend themselves. No heroes, no villains, just fear, adrenaline, and consequences that never fully go away. Some of these stories are intense, some are heartbreaking, and some will leave you questioning what you'd do if you were in their place. So take a breath, settle in, and let's get into tonight's true Reddit stories. Story 1. Home invasion and immediate family protection. I woke up in the middle of the night to a sound that didn't belong in my house. It wasn't loud at first, it was violent, heavy banging, kicking, the kind of noise that makes your body wake up before your brain does. I checked the security camera and my stomach dropped. There was a man at our front door. He was kicking it again and again, and in his hands, clear as day, he was holding an axe. My partner called the police and put 911 on speaker. They told us officers were already on the way. I grabbed my shotgun and told my partner to stay in the bedroom with the kids. Close the door, don't come out. I yelled through the door that he needed to leave, that we were armed, that the police were coming. He didn't stop. I yelled again, louder this time. I told him if he came inside, I would shoot him. He kept kicking. The door started to give, wood cracking, the frame splitting. I remember thinking, this is the last chance. For him, for me. When the door finally broke enough for him to push through, I raised the gun and shouted one more time. He didn't hesitate. He came straight at me. I fired. He went down immediately. I kicked the axe away from him and kept the gun trained on him, my hands shaking so badly I thought I might drop it. The police arrived less than 30 seconds later. I put the shotgun down and raised my hands before they even asked. They took my weapon. They checked him. They tried to save him, but he was already dead. I gave my statement. I sent the detective the security footage from our cameras. Everything was exactly as it had happened. A few days later, the detective called me again. He said the man's parents wanted to speak with me. He said it might help. I didn't know what to expect. They were kind. Kinder than I ever imagined they would be. They apologized over and over. They said they were sorry for what their son had done. They even offered to pay for the door and any damage to the house. The mother did most of the talking. She said her son had gotten involved with drugs years ago, that they lost him long before that night. The father didn't say much. He just looked at me with this quiet sadness I'll never forget. I told them our insurance would handle the repairs. They thanked me anyway. We sold the house not long after. None of us could sleep there anymore. Every noise felt wrong. Every shadow felt like a threat. We moved across town and started over. Every year since then, we've gotten a Christmas card from his parents. I still don't know how to feel about that. I lived, my family lived, but there isn't a single part of that night that ever really leaves you. Story 2. Jumped in the street. I was a minor when it happened, and I think that detail matters more than people realize. I was jumped by 4 guys, no warning, no buildup. 1 second I was walking, the next second I was on the ground. One of them stabbed me in the side. At first, I didn't even feel pain, just this cold pressure and the sudden understanding that something was very, very wrong. Everything turned into chaos after that. Shouting, scrambling, hands grabbing at me. Somehow, I pulled out my knife. I don't remember aiming. I don't remember choosing. I remember thrusting it forward, and then suddenly there was space around me. The other 3 ran. I slid down against a fence and sat there while the guy I stabbed tried to breathe. That sound, it wasn't loud. It was wet and desperate and broken. I cried. I cried until the police and the ambulance arrived. He was dead on arrival. They took me to the hospital first, then to the station. Because I was a minor, they held me until trial. Everyone kept telling me it was self-defense, that I did what I had to do. The court agreed. Legally, I was cleared, but that didn't stop the nightmares. For 5 years, I woke up soaked in sweat, hearing that sound again. 5 years of reliving it. 5 years of feeling like I was still sitting against that fence.
I went to therapy because they made me, but even after the night terrors faded, something stayed behind. I survived, and sometimes that feels heavier than not surviving.
Story 3. The Neighbor's Door. It was around 2 in the morning when I heard the arguing through the bathroom wall. At first, I tried to ignore it. People fight. Walls are thin. I closed the bathroom door, then my bedroom door, hoping the noise would fade. It didn't. About 15 minutes later, there was frantic pounding on my front door. When I opened it, a woman collapsed into my arms. Her nose was broken. One eye was swollen shut. There was blood everywhere. She was shaking so hard she could barely stand. I told her to go into my bathroom, clean herself up as best she could, and hide. She didn't argue. She just ran. Then I heard him. He came out of the apartment next door, yelling her name. I watched him follow the blood trail straight to my door. He started banging, screaming for me to let him in. I warned him. Once, twice, 3 times. I told him if he broke in, I would kill him. He kicked the door anyway. The lock snapped and the door swung open. I swung the bat. He went down hard, stunned, face first on the floor. When he shifted, I saw a handgun tucked into the back of his shirt. I grabbed it and threw it into my apartment. I told him to stay down. He didn't. He stood up and came at me again. I hit him once more, then again. I knew the moment it happened. You don't need training to recognize that kind of final silence. The neighbors had already called the police. They arrived almost immediately. Everyone who was awake came out into the hallway. Statements were taken. My wife refused to leave the bedroom, so the police took her statement right there. I handed over the bat. I showed them the gun. They confirmed it was registered to him. I called off work that day. Later, someone said I didn't take a life that night. I saved one. And I've held on to that thought ever since, because without it, I don't know how I'd live with what happened. Story 4. The Grandmother. I was working as a jewelry salesman back then, handling high-end pieces. That day I had just finished a sales call and was walking through the parking lot with my case when I heard footsteps running up behind me. Before I could even turn around, I was shot. I went down hard and instinctively rolled behind my car. Everything felt distant, like my body hadn't caught up with what just happened yet. I remember thinking, this is it. This is how it ends. Then one of them ran toward me. I don't know if it was adrenaline or pure survival, but my hands moved before my brain did. I pulled my gun and fired. He dropped. The other guy froze for half a second, looked at his friend on the ground, and then ran. Just disappeared. I stayed there, shaking, until the police arrived. My heart was pounding so loud I thought I might pass out. They secured the scene, called an ambulance, and started asking questions. I survived. The man who shot me didn't. Both attackers were eventually caught. One was dead, the other went to prison. I recovered physically, but mentally, that part took a lot longer. I still remember the sound of the gunshot echoing off the cars. I still remember the way time slowed down. People love to talk about self-defense like it's clean and simple, but it isn't. You don't walk away feeling like a hero. You walk away knowing how thin the line really is between living your normal life and watching someone die because they tried to take yours.
Story 5. The Pirate. I was married for most of my life. A long, happy marriage, the kind people say they want when they're young. My husband was a Vietnam veteran, gentle with me, steady, the kind of man who made the world feel safe. Then he got sick. It happened fast. 1 year he was fine, the next he was gone. Just like that. After he died, the house felt unbearably quiet. I was lonely in a way I didn't know existed. So when I met someone new, I ignored the small warning signs. I told myself I deserved happiness again. I told myself I didn't know how to be alone. That was my mistake. He wasn't kind, not really. It started small. Raised voice, angry looks, then shoves, then fists. I had never been treated like that in my entire life. I was embarrassed, ashamed. I didn't tell anyone. One night it got bad. We were at his house. He was drunk and furious over something I can't even remember now. He shoved me hard enough that I fell. I remember thinking, I might not leave here alive. There was a gun nearby, his gun. He was a former cop and obsessed with firearms. When he came at me again, I grabbed it. I didn't think. I didn't aim. I pulled the trigger. He fell. His adult son was in the house, playing video games. He heard the shot and ran in. I was shaking so badly I couldn't even speak properly. I told him what happened. He called the police. They arrested me. I was charged with murder. I was in my 80s, sitting in a jail cell, wondering how my life had turned into this. The local news plastered my name everywhere. Elderly woman arrested for murder. No context, no explanation. After a few days, I was released. The investigation continued, but eventually it was clear what happened. Self-defense. But the damage was already done. That news article never came down. Anyone who Googles my name still sees murder. My lawyers told me something that still hurts to hear. Don't talk about it. Not to friends, not to therapists, not even family. Someday detectives might reopen the case, and anything you say could be used against you. So I live with it, quietly. I went from a lifetime of love to fear, violence, jail, and silence in less than 2 years. I didn't want to kill anyone. I just wanted to survive. And I did. But surviving doesn't mean you get your life back.
Story 6. The Basement. I never thought I'd be someone who killed another human being. In 2020, during lockdown, I took a job as a maritime security contractor. I wasn't military, but I could shoot well and I had EMT experience. They were desperate for people. Everyone had to be vaccinated, staffing was low, standards slipped, and suddenly I was on a ship. I remember joking before we left that nothing would happen, and if it did, I'd be fine. I was wrong. We were off the coast, heading toward Mombasa when it happened. I saw a spark first, a tiny flash. Then a pipe burst behind me. It took a second for my brain to catch up. That was a real bullet. Everything went silent. Not actually silent, but my ears stopped hearing. All I could hear was my breathing and my heartbeat pounding in my chest. Boats are loud. Gunfire is loud. But in that moment, there was nothing. I came up over the sandbags, and by pure dumb luck, my sights landed perfectly on a man in a small skiff. I could see the whites of his eyes. He was wearing a blue Cookie Monster shirt and holding an AK-47. I made this strange sound, like a gasp I've never made before or since. I flicked the safety off and pulled the trigger. My report says I shot another man in the boat too. I don't remember that at all. What I do remember is seeing blood spray across the back of the boat through my scope. Before that day, I used to brag. I said if anything happened, I'd handle it, that I'd be fine. I wasn't fine. Not in the way I expected. I was angry, furious, not scared, angry. Angry that someone tried to kill us for money. Angry that I had to end lives over something so stupid. I remember thinking, I would have paid you not to do this. 2 finger movements, 2 lives gone, decades of existence erased. My boss gave me the number of a therapist. He'd fought in Somalia during Black Hawk Down. That man probably saved my life. I kept telling him I killed for money. He asked me one question that changed everything. If someone told you you wouldn't get paid if you didn't shoot, would you still have done it? I said yes, because otherwise my friends would have died. He looked at me and said, then you didn't do it for money. You did it to protect your people. A few nights later, we were watching Star Wars. There's a scene where a stormtrooper crashes into a tree and dies. I'd seen it a dozen times before. That time, I broke down. I sobbed uncontrollably over a faceless character in a movie. I still think about the man in the Cookie Monster shirt. Was he funny? Did he have siblings? Someone he loved? A favorite team? A girl he had a crush on? I'll never know. I survived. My crew survived. And I understand now why I pulled the trigger. But understanding doesn't erase it. It just teaches you how fragile life really is. And that's where tonight's stories end. If there's one thing these posts have in common, it's this. Self-defense doesn't end when the danger is gone. The scars don't always show, and the memories don't fade just because the law says you were justified. If these stories made you think, or if one of them stuck with you, let me know in the comments. I read them all. If you enjoy Reddit stories like this, consider subscribing to Reddit Echoes for more true Reddit stories every week. Take care of yourselves, and I'll see you in the next one.